Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to Next Door NetAdmin. Today, I'm doing something that I have never done before, and I'm going to tell you why. If you're already familiar with TrueNAS, you know that there are two basic trains, you could say. You've got core and you've got scale. Core is based on FreeBSD, scale is built on Linux. And in fact, if you come down here, you can actually see that. FreeBSD, Debian Linux. They're both supported. They both work very well for your NAS needs. Core is older, Scale is newer. That's basically the only difference. They support most of the same things. As always, though, when you're talking about network administration, the devil is in the details. For example, apps, it says no FreeBSD jails only. Whereas Scale is, yes, it supports Kubernetes or Docker. If it's virtualization you're looking for, Core is using Beehive because that's what comes in FreeBSD, whereas Scale is using KVM and Kubernetes. And one can use GPUs, the other can't. Honestly, GPUs for VMs and apps, if you're using GPUs for that, you probably don't want to be doing it on your TrueNAS box. You probably want to be doing that on a separate host, but that's beside the point. I'm saying that there is, generally speaking, mostly feature parity, and then you have all the standard features that are the same across everything. There's not a lot of differences to it. But that being said, if you want to use apps, or if you want to be on a Linux base, or if you want to do something that is newer, shall we say, then you might be more interested in doing Scale. My NAS has been running since easily 2017. 2018 is actually the earliest certificates that I had on the system. And so I've got Core because my system predates Scale. You can go from Core to Scale. If you check out the software status page, you can see that Core, we're looking at 13.0U67. That's what I've got. Cool, because I'm a conservative user even at home. TrueNAS Scale, or this rebadged one says Community Edition, is currently on 2410. So that would be nice to try and go to. If you look at the page for TrueNAS 2410, core to scale migrations, if you want to migrate from 13.0U6 to 2410 or later, you can only migrate to 2404 and earlier by using the web interface. But you have to do a clean installation if you're migrating to 2410 or later. Because if you attempt to migrate later, they fail and you can't do the migration. So that's also kind of why I'm looking at this now. The current version is 2410. But if I want to do this upgrade as an upgrade, I have to go to 2404, one release earlier. Fangtooth 2504 is nearing release. If you go and check the software status again, we're already looking at the release candidate for 2504. So going to 2404 will soon be 2 releases behind. So if I want to actually migrate from core to scale, I should probably do it soon before 2404 just is no longer available online. So that's what I'm going to try doing today. Caveats to this, I have never done this on any system, and typically I wouldn't. If I was working with a customer system, I would stick with what I've got until the hardware is replaced, because cross-grading an operating system like this is not commonly done. And you might end up with some instability too. In a corporate environment, I just wouldn't risk it. I'm a network admin. I like stability. I don't like doing risky things that might introduce instability. At home is another story. Now, I also happen to know that my NAS is not using apps. I'm not using VMs. I'm not using any funky services that I tried to put together on my own. So, in terms of what I'm doing with my NAS, I'm very much just focused on storage and then the built-in services that it comes with, SMB, for example, and primarily. Maybe a little bit of iSCSI from time to time, but I'm not using iSCSI right now, which means that basically all I've got right now is a few file shares, FTP running, but nobody's using it actively. That means that this is about as good a chance as I'm going to get to go through this cross-grade process, this migration from core to scale. So if I'm looking at the documentation hub here, I'm on TrueNAS 2404 because that's the last thing I can actually upgrade to smoothly. Let's look at this preparing to migrate page. What do you actually need to go through? Note this big warning that says this is a one-way operation. If you go through this, there's no going back. If you want to go back to core later, great. Wipe the operating system and reinstall it. Hopefully your data will be fine, and it should be fine because you just leave it on the data disks and then import your pool back into your system. But it is a one-way operation. Yeah, there's no clicking an undo button. What can or cannot migrate? Okay. Some things do not transfer. Okay, Microsoft OneDrive Cloud Sync. I'm not using OneDrive Cloud Sync, so that's fine. Geli encryption. I'm not using Geli encryption, so that's fine. Malformed certificates. I only have a single certificate on my TrueNAS. It's a Let's Encrypt certificate, and it's working fine. So there really shouldn't be a need to worry about that. But if it thinks that it's malformed for some reason, it'll generate a new self-signed certificate. So in that case, I'll just get a security warning and know that something's gone wrong and I need to bypass it. Plugins and jails. I don't have any plugins and jails, so that's a good thing. NIS data, don't have it. System tunables, I probably have some, but that's fine. I don't have any that I put in. It would have just been the system auto-tuning. And since we're moving from FreeBSD to Linux, I expect it to need different tunables anyway. Boot environments. Okay, your boot environments are where you have all your previous versions of TrueNAS installed. I'm not going to be able to keep those. Okay, we knew this was a one-way trip anyway. SMB auxiliary parameters. As it happens, I checked. I don't have any auxiliary parameters, so we're good on that. AFP shares, I don't have any. Net CLI utility, I'm not using it, so cool, we're fine. SAS multipath, not using it. Account names beginning with a number, don't have any of those. It all starts with a letter. You can also start it with an underscore, that's fine. It's just a letter. VM storage and configuration transfer over. Again, I'm not running any VMs, so cool. I don't have any of the stuff that's not going to come with me, so that's a good thing. Upgrade your core system to the most recent publicly available. I've done that. I'm on 13.0-U6.7. I don't have any Geli encrypted pools. Cool. Verify the root user's not locked. It's not. I'm signed in on it. Write down, copy, or take screenshots of settings to use in the event of a post-upgrade migration issue or to duplicate. Okay. Check the release notes. I've looked at the release notes. I'm good. System data set. I know which data set is my system data set. Cool. VMs, don't have any. Plugins or jails, don't have any. CAs, certificates, CSRs. I've checked that. I have copies of the certificates used. Specifically because I have that running from the Acme acme.sh client in my OpenSense, which then pushes the certificate to TrueNAS. I've got that. Usernames, I've got that. Tunables, I don't care. Init shutdown scripts, I don't have any, but I'll double check that. Cron jobs, pretty sure I don't have any, but I'll double check that. I don't have any self-encrypting drives. I don't have any SSH connections or key pairs. Any cloud service backup providers. Okay. I do have backups to Backblaze, so I should double check and make sure that I have those. And they're encrypted, so I'll definitely want to make sure that I have those saved, because if I lose the encryption keys, that's problematic. Data protection tasks. Take screenshots of your replication, periodic snapshot, cloud sync, or other task settings to reconfigure if you want to duplicate these tasks. That sounds like they may or may not come forward. I guess we'll find out. So that's what I'll need to make sure that I grab before I do this. Write down or take screenshots of your network configuration information. Yeah, because I'm using a lag, static IP addresses. Yeah. Yeah, okay. So we're going to do the translation, and if we need to reconfigure things, we will. I'm not using an enterprise here. That's fine. Uses DHCP. Bah, I don't care. I'm not using DHCP. Yeah, that's fine. I know my NTP servers that I'm using. That's fine. I know the domain name. I know the host name. I'm not using S3 mini IO, so that's fine. Back up any critical data. Yep, it's all backed up in Backblaze. And then download the system config file and a debug file. Cool. Okay. Give me a second. I'm going to make sure I have all these settings recorded, and then we'll get started with actually trying this migration. Okay. There we go. Got everything that I need, and we should be ready to proceed. So moving on from this list of all the things to prepare, we go to migrating TrueNAS core to scale. It goes on about migration preparation. We've already done that. I know what's going to happen to the administrator accounts. There's another warning. It's a one-way operation. I got it. I'm not doing the clean install. What I'm going to do is just select the scale update train, which there's a phrase, if you've ever heard it. Everybody get on the scale update train. Woo woo. I don't know. That was really dumb. Okay. It says that it's only available for releases 2410 and earlier. But recall that it says if you try to do this to 2410, if you attempt to migrate directly to 2410, it will fail. So we need to make sure that we're doing this for 2404, not newer. Not newer. But for that, we're going to go to System, down to Update. And you can see currently we're on the 13.0 stable train. We're going to select the Dragonfish train, 2404. And yeah, okay, migrations are still in development and can risk configuration. Yeah, okay. I've got a backup of my config and I've got the debug. It's a one-time event, no reverting. Okay. NIST data, jails, plugins, tunables, system boot environments, Geli, AFP shares. Yeah, we're all good with that. Switch update trains, confirm. All right, and there's an upgrade that's available from U67 to 240425. All righty, is there anything else I need to worry about this before I click the big button? No. Yeah, reviewed the warning. Thank you so much. And then we're going to apply the pending update or download updates. Yeah, okay. And then it's going to reboot. Okay, cool. And then we'll see what we get out of it. I've actually got an IPMI interface on my NAS so that I will be able to actually monitor what's going on the actual boot screen. So that'll be a good thing for me to be able to see exactly what's going on. But that's what we've got, so let's get this started. I've already saved my configuration settings, so in this case I will say no. Apply updates and reboot. Yeah, here we go. Fingers crossed. Usually I'm not such a huge believer in fingers crossed. A good system admin should prepare. I've done all my preparation, so yeah, we'll just have to see how this goes. And I'll probably skip a little bit of the waiting just in the interest of keeping the video moving along for you. All right, looks like everything's been downloaded at this point, and now it's extracting. All right, I wonder how long this one's going to take. Post install tasks. Okay. Huh. We went straight from extra. Okay, system is restarting. Let's pop over to our IPMI interface and see what we've got. Yes, I know that. You love it when I use Chrome. I'm never using Chrome. Okay, so here we go on the boot sequence. It takes a little bit of time. It's a Xeon processor and it's not fast, but it's got the power that I needed for my NAS. So this might take a little bit of time, but it's ticking along. There we go. Moving along. It's actually got a boot menu between core and scale. Interesting. I wonder if that'll go away at some point. This IPMI interface is particularly important if, for whatever reason, it can't do network or doesn't know how to do network. I might, because I have this set up with a lag interface, an aggregated link, I am kind of anticipating that if it doesn't migrate that information correctly, I'm going to have to set that back up myself. That might take a little bit of doing, but I've anticipated that, so we'll see what's necessary. Ooh, it's rebooting again. Okay. That's not unheard of or unexpected. When I'm doing a TrueNAS upgrade from one major series to the next, it has to reboot twice. The first time it reboots, it upgrades its internal database. And the second time it reboots into the upgraded database. So if they're doing something similar to that here, it doesn't shock me any. Grub again. Okay. Oh, they had an update service, FreeBSD to scale. Interesting. It's always interesting the things that you can spot if you just watch this go. Oh. It's rebooting again. Okay. How can I tell? Well, this is all stopped, deactivated. Okay. We're rebooting again. All right. There it is. Oh. There we go. I only just realized that I wasn't recording this KVM screen. So my apologies. I've just been blathering on about things that you couldn't see. I'm sorry. But yes, we are moving along there. This is where I saw the upgrade service previously, but you didn't get to see that, I'm afraid, because I mucked it up. Okay. So this is good. It knows the IP address that it's at. It knows the address that it's supposed to be at. Let's go and see if the web interface is up and listening. It is. Excellent. Now, I had only had a root account before. All right. Hey, there we go. We've moved over onto Dragonfish. Excellent. And it is translated to a bond instead of a lag. Excellent. Wonderful. Okay. Well, now I'm going to have to go through everything and make sure that all the settings came through. But so far, just on an initial glance, looks pretty good. Because I've got my network, I've got my storage array, I've got my backup tasks. That's a good thing. Cool. If any of you are thinking of going through the same process, I guess I can only say I hope it goes as smoothly for you as it seems to have gone for me. And probably preparation is the biggest part in that. Because if you go through the preparation checklist and the more you can simplify everything on your NAS before the update, the less opportunity there is for something to go wrong. So, yeah, all right. I'm actually kind of excited to look through this and make sure that everything came together as expected. If you have any other thoughts for things that you'd like to see me do in the future, obviously, maybe not this migration because it's a one-time thing anyway, but other things that you might like to see me cover, let me know right down there in the comments section. Otherwise, thank you very much for watching. I am your next door NetAdmin, and we will see you next time.